Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. This is S3 Expresso. And you know what? I've always said this to you, but I hope that the sun shines brighter for you today. But then I didn't add the disclaimer, I hope that you're wearing sunscreen. Now, children need to be able to have the freedom to play outdoors. Now, with the NIVEA Sun range of sun care products, they can do so carefree. So whether it's on the field, at break time, sporting action, swimming, or at the beach, our children's delicate skin needs extra care and protection from the harmful effects of the sun. And this is why I brought in two friends who happened to be doctors. We got a dermatologist here, perfect for the conversation, Dr. Lauren Knight, and then, of course, pediatrician Dr. Anisha Vahed, who is here to discuss a bit more about why this is so vitally important. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Two doctors, man. I'm so excited. I want to ask you, the problem with being a doctor is that you're going to go to a family bride, and there's always going to be like, sorry, doctor, I just have a little something in my arm, I know. But this is exactly why I called you today. So let's start with you, Doctor. And so I'm going to have to use your first names today. It's going to be quite confusing. So, Anisha, here's the thing. When it comes to sun protection, it's something that everybody only associates when I'm going to be at the beach. For growing up, you only put sunscreen on when you were headed to the beach or you were part of like a sporting event. But there's such more important moments where you should be wearing sun protection. So why is this so important to know?
So for our children, it's much more important to try and concentrate on them because there's the short-term and the long-term benefits.
That's true, yeah.
So kids have got much more thinner skin, much more sensitive skin, and because they're so delicate, they're more prone to getting sunburn. So what we're looking for is trying to avoid those sunburns, but obviously try and avoid all those long-term skin cancer risks later on in life. So that's why we need to be concentrating on our kids right at the beginning.
I wish I knew. I still have time, though, I do, but that's why I'm very happy that something like a NIVEA Sun is pediatrically approved as well, which ensures that you do have the delicacy on your kids' skin, but it's the protection that you need, which is so, so important. So let's move on, because a hat, is that actually enough? You know what we do, as parents, just like, come here, let me put the hat on, now I feel like I've done my parental duty, now go and play. Is it enough?
So like you say, it's really important, but it's not enough. And what we really want to practice, what we say to children and adults alike, is that a multi-pronged approach. So you want to do sun avoidance, protective clothing, and then, of course, your sunscreen. So sun avoidance, you want to encourage your kids to play in the shade, under cover, and this is particularly important between the peak hours of 10 to 2. And how you can teach your kiddies that is we call the shadow rule. So if you're standing and your shadow is closer to your feet or shorter than you are tall, it means the sun is at its highest. And these are the times of the day that you really should be trying to be in the shade or under cover. And us as parents and schools should be really facilitating that for children.
That's such a cool thing. I can imagine a class like that, like look at your shadow. And then, because if you do that, kids around you will be like, guys, the shadow.
Exactly.
Let's get the sunscreen
and you have
on
this
as well.
kind of like group mentality. And then hats, yes, so important. But
yes.
There's a difference in hats. So we're wanting wide-brimmed hats, not just peak caps. And then, of course, your sunscreen and sun protective clothing.
So you're saying, like, put a wide-brim hat on, get your NIVEA Sun forehead and proper application, and you should be fine. Two-prong approach there.
And also sun protective clothing. So remember also, especially when we think about swimming costumes, they often have longer sleeves, they have UPF factors. Yeah. But also just dress your kids in light, long sleeves if you can when you're going to be out in the sun. Okay. So limit the areas of the skin that are exposed, limiting your need to cover with sunscreen or reapply.
This is brilliant. Thank you. But now let's talk about the fact that, there are times, I told you about growing up, it was always, we're going to the beach, put on your sunscreen, you're going to play a sporting match, put in your sunscreen, and then that was it. Like, you'd play outside and you'd hoy, and I think that's the thing about it, is that when should you be wearing sunscreen? Let's put the bullet points down for everybody to know. When's a good time?
So keyword is all the time. Okay.
Is that the only bullet point? All the time, done.
So no matter the skin color, and I think we were talking about it just before we came on air, was that some people want to go and say, we want to get a bit of a tan. Okay. Kids should not be tanning. Adults should not be tanning. It should be part of our daily routine to be putting on your sun protection already in the morning. And we should be good examples to our children. So doing it as part of our routine in the morning before they go to school, because our teachers don't have time to be reapplying during school breaks and in the afternoons. But it's also very important to reapply that sunscreen. So a good 15 to 30 minutes before going outdoors. If you're going to go swimming, go and reapply it. And afterwards, reapply that sunblock as well.
This is actually quite important, though, because I know for a fact that, you're not going to have one-time swimming. You know, so you're not going to apply a NIVEA Sun to your kid. I mean, fortunately, it is water resistant, which is great, but you want to reapply. Because once the swimming has happened, you know, come back here.
Yes.
Let's reapply and then go back in as well, which is cool. But it's always handy to have something like a NIVEA Sun, which is actually the water-resistant element. Now let's talk about SPF, which is phenomenal. And I don't want to go into it now. The other day, I only learned what 50 plus means and 50 plus means. That was incredible. But that sun protection factor is quite important. When it comes to kids, does SPF change in terms of the youth of the child as they get older? Or should it be like one max factor fits all?
My rule is one max factor should be 50 above.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you agree.
No, we definitely say SPF 50. So as dermatologists, we have integrated sun protection guidelines, and we're not confusing anyone anymore.
Yes.
It's at least an SPF 50. SPF 50 is your gold standard. Children, adults, all ages, all races. And the reason being is that your SPF is derived from being tested in a lab where we know how much you apply, we know that you've got optimal coverage, and we know in real life that doesn't happen. So start yourself off with a higher odd, you're going to have better coverage.
I love that. Can we talk about application for a second? I mean, from a dermatologist's perspective, I think it's quite important, but I think sometimes we just think, let's just pluck on the sunscreen, let's we don't stick our NIVEA Sun, and then just do that and we're good to go.
Yeah.
But I'm sure application is also quite important. You know, especially if you have your kid in front of you and you want to apply to certain areas, you want to take all the coverage seriously. And I actually wanted to ask you about hands too and feet too, because I think we don't talk about this enough. So application guidelines, give us a few.
So I think the good thing about social media and sunscreen education, we've all learned about the 2-finger rule. So this is a quick tip for your face.
Please.
When you're applying your sunscreen in the morning, you want to have 2 finger lengths worth of sunscreen, and that's how much you need to use just for your face. So that would be your face, ears, neck, back of the hands, probably would cover with that.
Ears. Thank you for saying ears.
Yes.
Because
And
we
into
always
your
are peeling at the top of your ears after a beach day. Don't forget your ears, okay?
Ears, and then also with your wide brim hat.
Yes.
Bonus. And then for the rest of the body, you also want to just make sure that you're getting a good coverage. So we usually speak about a half a shot glass per arm. It's quite difficult to regulate. So that's why I try and think about the 2-finger rule. So if that 2-finger rule covers like the area of your 2 hands, and you kind of work it out like that. But just really important to reapply, like Anisha said, and that's why I say multi-pronged, limit the areas that are exposed, because once your kids are playing, to get them to come back to try and recover that whole body is a disaster. So long sleeve swimming costumes, long sleeves, nice brim hats. Just think of it from multiple aspects.
Enjoy the sun, but respect it and respect your own body. I think that's important. So just back to the bullet point that we mentioned. When do we apply sunscreen?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Thank you, doctors. That has been incredible. And trust me, it's one of those things. Even in winter, don't forget that the UV still has its effect. But of course, we're going to summer, which is very exciting, but it's a time to show some caution. So NIVEA Sun has your children covered. With their babies and kids sun protection, as a parent, you can let your children learn and play and enjoy the positive benefits of the sun, such as vitamin D, without the worry. Buy any NIVEA Sun product and you stand a chance to win a trip to the place where the sun was invented, Zanzibar. That's for 2, and here's how.
Wouldn't you love to visit the home of tropical island of treasure Zanzibar? Well, you can. Buy any NIVEA Sun product, dial *120*607#, and you could stand a chance to win a trip for 2 to the Safira Blue Luxury Resort and Villas in Zanzibar. Keep your till slip handy. T's and C's apply. You could be soaking up the sun in Zanzibar.